Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking. If you have watched my channel for some time, first of all, thank you for doing so. But secondly, you know that my background in the tabletop hobby started with the role-playing games first, and then in my teenage years and my early 20s, I was really big into fantasy miniature combat, and also a little bit of BattleTech as well. Played a lot of BattleTech, but I was really into Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and since then I've gotten into Age of Sigmar and what have you since then. But I've always just loved the idea of fielding a war band or an army and having them do battle with another army on the other side of the table. Now, as I've gotten older, my love for that type of game has not, you know, gotten smaller in any way, shape, or form, but my ability and my time to be able to devote to that particular hobby has decreased a great deal. And I still have that itch to be able to play games like that, to have two separate, desperate armies doing battle on some grisly, horrible field of war, and seeing who comes out on top. I still miss those, but unfortunately, like I said, I just don't have the ability to do it. Then games like this come along. Reign Absolute. Now you might look at this tiny little box, right? Okay, so if I were to tell you that within this box, everything you need to be able to put together a awesome, tough little war band, depending upon whatever faction you decide to play, that has its own strengths and weaknesses and powers and abilities that you can teach yourself and learn how those work in like 10 minutes or less, and then find an opponent, have them learn their army's abilities and strengths and weaknesses, what have you, in about 10 minutes or so. And then you can both sit down and have a game and have a battle out on your tabletop in 15 minutes or less, and it scratches that itch that I was just talking about. You'd probably say, how? Well, I'm going to show you. So let me show you how Reign Absolute is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to show you how the game of Reign Absolute is played, but I just want to touch briefly on the different components of the game before I set up the board. So very quickly, the base game comes with, well, at least the base game I got, came with 4 different races. So I got the Empire here, the Raiders, and these are both human, but they're different factions, if you will. And then I also got these orcs and these elves as well. I'm just, to show you the game, I'm going to show you both the human Empire and the human Raiders, just, you know, as the setup. But also you get the units, which are going to be represented by these cards. The cards themselves will have a strength or a value over here, which will be both considered, it's basically both their attack and their defense, depending upon if they're the one attacking or, well, if they're defending. And then some of them will have special abilities. So here the War Chief says, if defeated, this race is eradicated, because it is, like, as you can see, this is like the liege unit of that. And you can see over here the King is the liege unit for the human Empire. So then there's other cards like this Champion with a strength of 7, and you go through them. Now, some of the cards will have certain things, like the Berserker has a strength of 4. You think, well, that isn't really good for a Berserker, but you can see over here this attack icon, it has a +5 if they're attacking, so then that would be a 9. And here we have the Master Builder, it has only a 4, but you notice that he has a +2 for shield. Which, you know, obviously is going to change things up a little bit. And the same things are going to happen here, like here's these archers that have +4 when they attack. Here's this monk that has +4 when it defends. But this one also has this Magician, and it says, like, and the Magician has a special ability where it says you get to draw one of these reinforcement cards over here at the start of receiving, resolving combat. If the card would add, it is resolved, otherwise it is ignored and then trashed. And so there's different powers and abilities. And as the races become more and more complex, these are some of the more basic races. As the races, the factions, if you will, become more and more complex, there's going to be more and more things going on with those particular factions. Like the orcs get this warlord card that they're going to be able to use to fight with, and the elves get this tree that like basically assists them in many different ways. You can see here's like the elder tree, and it is placed. And so like I said, there's lots of different races that are going to be available. There's an expansion, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but the expansion actually has this undead faction, it has a dwarf faction, and it has a rat people faction, or Skaven, which really appealed to the like old Warhammer Fantasy roleplay, and also Warhammer Fantasy miniatures game person in me a lot, so I really appreciate that. Now the reinforcement deck is just like that. It is reinforcements on your turn, and I'll show you this when I show you how to play the game. On your turn, you will basically you'll move one of your units, and then if you move into another where a unit is, you'll force an attack. So and all these units I mentioned, it's like got that Stratego hidden unit type of thing. So when you're going to have units that are like this, and on your turn, you're going to say, oh, I move to attack that, and then you're going to have a reveal for each of those units and see what they have. And then when you reveal those, after your turn is done, sometimes you'll draw cards during the combat to reinforce, but also after your turn's done, you'll draw one of these cards, reinforcement card, and this one has like this +1 to strength, and then you'll be able to add that to one of your units. So like here, this was the Master Builder, and so you could, if you want to, you can go ahead and take that and you can tuck it underneath the unit like so, and you can give them a little bit of an added boost for when the next time they're involved in combat. It should be noted that you can always look at your own cards. If you have to remember which one is this, you can look at it, take a peek, put it back down. The player can ask how many reinforcement cards are underneath a specific unit that you have on the board, but obviously they're not allowed to pick up your unit and take a look at it. This is that fog of war hidden unit aspect of the game that is really important, the kind of a memorization and like bluffing and probability thing that's going on as well. But all right, so let me show you how the game is set up and set the game up, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so here we go. We got the game set up. We're ready to play. And I'm not going to go through the entire game. I just want to give you a good idea of how each turn will take place. I also want to show that this is just one of many countless ways this game could be set up prior to the game beginning. There are also these rules variance cards that you can be used to like add different rules to the game, like a doom clock or swap 2 units after setup. Just different things that you can do to mix the game up. And as I said, you know, there's the expansion that has 3 new factions in it, and then I have both like the orc faction and also the elf faction that will allow me to add even, you know, another player or 2 more players, or even like 3, 4, or 5 more players if I wanted to play a big, giant, epic game of this. But the game goes very, very simply. On your turn, you will select one of your units, and remember, you can always pick up your own units and take a look at them. You're going to select one of your units, and you're going to move them or attack with them. A move is always going to be orthogonal. There's no such thing as diagonal anything in this game. Just keep that in mind. So, like, this card and this card aren't connected anyway, but these cards are. I could just move this card here on my turn if I wanted to, and that's a perfectly valid move. But if I took this card and I moved it and I said I'm attacking, that's when we're going to go ahead and flip these over. And what we have is I have this militia with a strength of 5, and I'm attacking this berserker with a strength of 4. That would be an incredible moment for this player to be like, oh my gosh, because the berserker does have a +5 to attack, as I said before, but they don't have any bonus to defend, meaning that this lowly militia could have been able to destroy that berserker with that attack. But let's go ahead and try something else on for size. Let's say I didn't do that, and let's just say I moved from here to here, like so. Maybe I'm kind of like trying to see what this card, if I can somehow manage to get back there, see what's going on. But then at the end of my turn, I get to draw one of these cards. And this one says, it's a +3 to attack reinforcement card. And only when attacking, +3 to unit strength. And then I would discard this, the little trash icon, after that is resolved. Now, I might want to use that on that militia, but then that's a pretty good card with +3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe try to find a better card, like maybe one of these knights that are right here. I'm going to take that reinforcement and I'm going to put it underneath it like so. And I'm going to basically up the ability of that knight the next time that it attacks. Now let's just go over to the next person's turn and let's just try this. So like the berserkers, we want to use them to attack, but remember, this is where strategy comes in. If I move this berserker into attack, there's probably a pretty good chance I'm going to kill the unit that's there. Because remember, those berserkers have a +5 to their strength, so that might not be a real wise decision. Maybe I'm a little more worried about what this unit is that's sneaking around off to the side. So maybe I would just do this, and I would move from here to there. And now we're going to go ahead and see what this is. As we know, it is a militia. This one is our clansman. So a strength of 6 versus strength 5. We would destroy the defender, and then we would go ahead and take over the spot that that particular unit was in. And we would then return this and have it be destroyed. We would draw our card at the end. Here we have, and this is a different type of reinforcement card. And you can see it, it's like, and instead of having like a plus to combat, it is this plus, this lightning bolt here. It says player may swap the position of 2 of their units. And then all of the like bonuses, like the little cards that are underneath the reinforcement, must be switched with them, and then staying with the original unit. So maybe I'm now thinking, no, this wasn't a good idea for my berserkers to be this close to the front. So let's go ahead and we're looking here, and here is a champion, good strength 7. Let's move that guy over there, and let's move our berserkers over to this spot. Just have them be more of a like surprise unit, that maybe on this turn, if this unit moves to here to attack, then I'd be able to be prepared for that. All right, so we've gone ahead. First 2 turns are done. Let's just do another one real quick here. We move to here onto that spot, and then we're going to reveal. Here we have militia, and as you might have guessed, militia are kind of they're almost when you would play Stratego, those low-level units that they were just used basically as fodder to try to kind of spelunk what was going on the other side. And then we have another clansman. So we have an attack that fails, meaning that militia has been destroyed, but the clansmen defending have won, but they don't get to move into the spot. They just stay in that location. All right, so how is the game won? Well, as I said, the game can only be won if you destroy the opponent's liege. And I think, if I remember correctly, nope, that is, I put my liege here. So that's a pretty obvious spot for my liege to be in, like way in the back. And obviously that's probably a good idea too. It's a good solid strategy. Keep the people away from the thing that is going to be trying to like destroy the thing that's going to cause me to lose. But if I was ever in a situation where I would attack my war chief, and I would reveal that it is a 7, so I have a knight, so 7, and then +3 to attack. My war chief here only has an 8, and that 10 would destroy the war chief, and then I would be knocked out of the game as the Viking player. Now, that in a 2-player game, obviously then the game is over in that situation. However, the game can be played with more than 2 players, in which case the game would continue until. This is one of those games where as you try out the more complex races, the complex factions, there's going to be some funky, cool stuff going on. As I said, that magician card, and I believe, no, that's the knight card. There we go. So the magician card is neat, and I'm going to show you how this would work. Let's just say, let's swap these 2 back. So the magician's here, and on my turn, I attack. Actually, either way works, because the magician's ability comes into play whenever there is a combat. So it's one of those things where if this champion moved in and attacked the magician card says draw 1 reinforcement card at the start of resolving combat. If the card would be used to like affect the combat. Like it is a combat card like this, with like it's a reinforcement card that has those cross swords icons, and then you get to use it. So let's just see what we get here. So champion attacks, and then here we get a card that says draw 2. At the start of resolving combat, or when this card is drawn, draw 2 and ignore any. So this is a card actually that you would put underneath a card like so. But if the magician just forces, has a draw card, then I'm going to go ahead and get to draw 2 cards. So we'll draw 1. We'll get +2 to defend. That is going to be 8. And then +1 to attack. Unfortunately, the +1 attacks can be wasted, but the +2 to defend is going to actually add 2 to the strength of the magician, giving her an 8, meaning that this champion, who is riding high, thinking, hey, I'm going to beat up on this magician and destroy them, unfortunately, all of a sudden has an 8 health. This champion would then be destroyed, and the magician would win that combat and go back. Now, it is important to remember that any bonus cards that are placed underneath the units, and there's no limit to the number of those reinforcement cards that can be underneath units. You could have, 10 under one if you wanted to, but after one combat, those cards are then discarded. So you can't just, pump up one unit and just turn it into some massive killing machine, and then it just remains like that. They are like, they can be expended very, very quickly, in which case then a unit that is very, very powerful because of the reinforcement cards underneath it will revert back to its original weak status after that combat is completed. So that's also something you have to keep in mind. And that's also one of the things I keep mentioning about this, is that this is a game that rewards multiple plays and rewards understanding how your different factions work and how they work against the other factions. And you're going to realize the strengths and weaknesses of each one of them, and you're going to change your gameplay to fit that, to fit both the opponent you're up against and fit the allies or the units that you're going to have yourself. This is a fantastic game. It doesn't take a long time to play. It is one of those games that when I've been playing it with my kids, as soon as we get done playing it, they're like, I want to play again. And they want to try a different a faction, or they want me to try a different faction, or we want to play 2 factions at the same time. As I said, there's so many different ways that we can play this game, and it is so much fun. It definitely boils down that tactics and strategy feel that I look for in games in a very, very fun, compact package. But let me talk about that and a few other things in my final thoughts. All right, thank you very much for taking the time to learn how to play the game. Now, that did not take long, right? And that was me teaching you the rules, and I'm a little bit long-winded, as they like to say. So you can only imagine if it's just you sitting down at your table, learning the game yourself, or teaching to somebody else, it's not going to take a long time. My kids are 9 and 13. I was able to teach them the ins and outs of this game in just that, like 10, 15 minutes. I mean, without any rules refreshers or anything like that. And even so, I mean, the game comes with really good index cards that kind of go over everything for those other players. And players have these just right in front of them, and they can, look at these and like, oh, what can I do in any particular turn? And it's right here on this card, and you can teach yourself whatever it is that you need to know. And plus, one of the really cool things is that each one of the cards has a little, like, depending upon the faction or what have you, they have like strategy tips. So if you have no idea what you're getting into, you don't have any clue, just read the card. And it'll tell you, hey, here's some good ideas, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. And you can kind of, hedge your bets in a certain way and give yourself the best possible chance to winning. Now, there was one thing I didn't talk about when I was showing you how the game was played. There is a separate action that you can do, and it's called Doom. And very, very simply what it is, Doom can be used if you think you have the upper hand. You can call Doom on your turn. And when you call Doom on your turn, what you can do is you can force your opponents to select one unit from their battlefield and destroy it. The trick is that if you select Doom as your action, when it comes back to you, you have to select a unit from your side as well and also destroy that unit as well. So you it's kind of a gamble, right? If you select Doom as your action, it can be a way that, like, if you feel like that's going to be enough to pull off your win, then yes. But when it comes back around to you, if your opponent has somehow managed to subvert it and, like, basically make it so they gain the upper hand, unfortunately, they're going to be in a situation where you may have called Doom too soon, and you're going to end up losing units or possibly even losing your liege when you thought you had victory in your hand. Me, myself, I don't usually call Doom as an action just because I don't trust my own guts, if you will, to be able to discern what my opponent is going to be doing or what they're going to attempt to do. I'd rather just, mete out the misery with my units and destroy my opponents rather than do that. But I can see why in certain situations, if certain units had tons of like reinforcement cards underneath them or things like that, maybe that would just be a better decision to take on your turn. Now, all of that being said, what do I really think about it? I mean, first of all, I love the fact that, once again, this is not gonna. As you can see, this is a giant mess behind me. I have been paring down my board game collection for 3 years now, and I had thousands of games, and now I have 500 or so, and I still have too many. My shelf space is at an absolute minimum at this point. It's constantly overrunning. I need to stop getting games. But here's the deal: this is a game that I can play in so many different ways, and so many different setups, so many different times I can play with different players, different factions, different rules, what have you. And the tray, I mean, and I'm assuming they're going to do this with when the game. Here, look, you can see this tray for all of these different factions and all these different faction cards in this one little box. Think of all the different battles I can have with all the different races, and I can only assume the publishers are going to come up with those, and they're going to keep creating more and more. And I love, the Rat Men. I mean, I was always a big Skaven player back in the day. And still am with my warband in AOS. But I mean, I love the rat people. The rats are just a fantastic faction, and I love playing with them. I also love the undead faction. I love the dwarves. Each one has a cool different process and its own cool little rule set, a way to spin the game on its ear and keep everybody on their toes. And I can't wait to see what more that they're going to keep adding to the game and keep designing and keep everybody else like you might have a faction that you think is just amazing, but all of a sudden, and the perfect way to run it, but I don't know, they're going to come up with demons or angels or hobgoblins or who knows what else. It's going to come down the pipe, and you're going to have to figure out a new way to fight, because the way that you've been doing it in the past just won't work. And the cool thing is that I can remember playing games of Warhammer where I would spend an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, setting up my army, putting everything together, letting everybody know all the different things, all the different artifacts I had, and all the different powers of my units, whatever. And then the battle would start, and then all of a sudden it's like the tide of battle switches on me. I'm getting decimated, I'm getting destroyed, I'm getting knocked down, and all of a sudden it's over, and I'm like, why did I spend an hour and a half, 2 hours setting up and countless hours painting those models and everything else, and all of a sudden I'm out of the tournament here in the first 2 hours. I mean, that was a bit of a letdown. Here, it's like, oh, okay, I set up my army, I'm good to go, I fight, I lost after 10 minutes. Oh well, let's play again. Let's pick a different army. Let's go. Let's set it up and play again. And my son and I have been doing that a lot, and we're really enjoying it. I mean, it's quick, it's fast, it's tactical. It scratches that fantasy wargamer itch that I've been needing to be scratched in a long time, and I can't wait to see what else they come up with. So there you go. This is Reign Absolute. If you have any questions about it, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. If you can also take the time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, maybe the like, leave a comment or whatever, I'd appreciate that even more. Take care. Be safe. Be awesome. I'll talk to you soon.